Today we're watching Who's the Richest Person in History by Jack Pockets. So we're gonna find out who the richest person in history is. I'm pretty sure this is like the leader of the Mali Empire. No, I've only played Civ 6. Like, Susrise, if you want me to play Civ 6.
Wanted Elon Musk's net worth, they would have to work for 8 million years. That's 30 times longer than human beings have existed. And in the time it's taken me to tell you this, Elon has made another $100,000. But the craziest thing about Elon is that he's not even the richest person in history. He's actually not even close. If you look back in time, there are people that make Elon look broke. So let's go find the richest human to ever exist, starting in the late 80s with a Colombian billionaire who revolutionized the energy supplement industry, Pablo Escobar.
No, not this guy. Boring, long. No, boring. Yeah, this dude.
Time. In 1324, a man went on a pilgrimage across Africa. His name was Mansa Musa, and he was the king of the Mali Empire. Mali had a lot of salt and a lot of gold. A lot of gold. So much gold that on Musa's pilgrimage he covered himself, his 60,000 person entourage, and his hundreds of animals with thousands of pounds of gold. And then he handed out so much of that gold that it destabilized local economies. So he borrowed the gold back, which fixed the problem, until he paid all the debts back at once and everything crashed again. After Musa's multi-billion-dollar road trip, he began showing up on maps decked out in gold, cementing his reputation in history as the original flexer. But estimating his net worth is borderline impossible, since all accounts of Musa's trek come from second-hand testimony. It's believed that Musa controlled about half of the world's gold supply, and the most common number I found for his total worth was 400 billion, but many numbers went much higher. So based on the amount of valuable resources under his control, Mansa Musa may be the richest person in history. But go back 100 years and there was a man with a very different kind of wealth.
Genghis Khan. That's the guy that wiped out like 10% of the population.
In the early 1200s, Genghis Khan controlled more land than any man in history. His Mongol Empire covered almost 20% of Earth's land area, making his estimated net worth today 130 trillion. But this is slightly misleading. Genghis never really had much wealth of his own, and this was actually vital to his influence. Rather than taking for himself, war loot was redistributed to soldiers and commanders to promote loyalty. Genghis wore the same clothes and ate the same food as his crew. He slept in tents and asked to be buried with no markings or signs. Genghis Khan didn't really have desire for personal wealth or possessions, but based on his control of land, he may have been the richest guy to ever live. But let's go even further back in time, to the year 1 AD. The people alive right now have no idea that they're living through a turning point in history. They actually don't even know what year it is. Romans think that it's year 754. Jews think it's 3761. The Chinese think it's year 9. And for the Greeks, it's 194. Every country is kind of doing their own thing. America is building early cities thanks to the Mayans. India is trading through the ocean and Silk Road. China just invented paper. And in Rome, Augustus Caesar is balling. A few years prior, he defeated Mark Antony and Cleopatra in battle and snatched up Egypt as his personal property. He now controls around 20% of Rome's economic output, and that includes the tax flows, the treasury, the gold and silver mines, and revenue from conquered lands. He also has a money method where he kills rich people from his own empire just to take their stuff. After Caesar passes in the year 14, he officially gets declared a god with an estimated modern-day net worth of $5 trillion. But let's go back another 900 years. Civilization is in its early stages. Most people live short, difficult lives. Money in the form of coins doesn't yet exist. King Solomon rules over the kingdom of Israel, collecting gold by the ton. His yearly tax revenue is 666 talents of gold. He basks in his riches with his 700 wives, and in today's money, he's worth over $2 trillion. But this is all according to accounts in the Bible, written hundreds of years after he would have lived. When we're this far back in time, details get murky. Written accounts are sparse and incredibly biased. The richest man from ancient times will never really know. So, who is the richest person in history? Looking at this graph, it seems like there's a lot of people who make Elon look broke, but these numbers don't tell the whole story.
I
Hear me
make
out.
more
In
money.
1913,
Lol.
John D. Rockefeller was worth 2% of US GDP. Today, Elon Musk is worth 1.4% of US GDP. So Rockefeller had a larger share of the economy, making his inflation-adjusted net worth higher than Elon's. But here's the catch. The US economy today is 22 times larger than it was in 1913. Rockefeller had a bigger slice of a much smaller pie. Estimated numbers don't tell the story of how the entire world has become more and more prosperous over time. Elon is now the biggest fish in the biggest pond that has ever existed. On
This
top
guy's
of this,
just
his
jealous
wealth
because
is
he
a
doesn't
personal
have
fortune.
$2
It's well
trillion
documented and
like
verifiable,
me.
unlike ancient figures like King Solomon.
Lol.
It
I have
wouldn't
$2
disappear if he
quadrillion.
lost his positions of power. Unlike
I have
dictators
10
and heads of
trillion
state, he can
shekels.
access it for
Lol.
whatever he wants, and he
I
harnesses
have
technology
300
that
trillion
ancient figures would
shekels in
think is
fact.
witchcraft.
Because I'm a
Elon is the
billionaire.
richest person in history, with his 400 billion today. Eventually, someone will get even richer, but based on history, everyone else will get richer too.
Stop taking meeting notes and let click.
Go away, go away, go away, go away. Clash
10 years ago,
Royale.
Clash Royale started out with just 48 cards. But today, in 2025, the game has 121 cards and counting. So with all of these options, the community definitely has some favorite picks. But on the flip side, there are 100% some cards that are way too overpowered and make everyone rage. So today, I'm going to be talking about the most loved and hated cards in the history of Clash Royale. Starting with one of the most loved cards in the game, Mini P.E.K.K.A.
Mini P.E.K.K.A. Mini P.E.K.K.A. He's like the perfect card.
Mini P.E.K.K.A. was one of the first cards ever released by Supercell on the actual release date of Clash Royale. Since the game came out, this card has remained a staple in a ton of people's decks, especially when you're just starting out. Because Mini P.E.K.K.A. only costs 4 elixir, but also causes some crazy damage, it can easily take down a lot of tanky cards in a 1v1 situation. And you can use it to counter what's perhaps the most broken card in the game, and also our first hated card in this video,
I was doing
Mega
boring shit instead of playing Clash.
Mega Knight was added to the game back in September of 2017, and this might be genuinely the most hated card in the game.
How could anybody
ever.
hate a Mega Knight?
Genuinely losing my mind. Delete Mega Knight from the game.
If you go into Reddit, you can see endless posts about how broken this card is, and you can definitely see a lot of players raging to it on stream.
Mega Knight. Jinxie! Jinxie!
Mega Knight! Mega Knight! Mega Knight!
That's until I realised it could be countered with one of the best counters in the game.
I've literally never heard anyone say
You can literally get a
anything good
+4
about this card,
positivity
well,
to trade.
unless they're using it in their own deck.
This is so crazy. How is this a thing? How is this okayed?
Although this card costs 7 elixir, it has unbelievably high HP, and unlike other high HP cards like the P.E.K.K.A., Mega Knight also does splash damage. So if you try and take it out with a Skarmy or another high hits per second card, you're going to get absolutely squashed. And considering all of the complaints about this card, Supercell decided to nerf it. Just kidding, no they didn't.
Yeah.
Instead of nerfing the card or changing its stats and attack patterns, Supercell decided to give it an Evo card.
Mega Evos! And he is looking mean!
Yeah. My goat.
Yeah, and this evolution is probably the most broken card in the entire game. And the worst part is, because it's so hard to take him down, you either have to use your entire deck against him, or you have to join the Eve side and put him in your deck yourself. I guess you either die a hero or live long enough to become the villain. And I certainly am the villain. But back on a positive note, one of the most loved cards in the game is up next. We've got to talk about Valkyrie, yet another card on this list that was also added right when the game was released. And although in 2025, 3% of people are using Valkyrie, and that doesn't seem like a lot, back in the beginning of the game, even less people were using this card, and that's when there was only 48 cards in the deck. Over time, Supercell has buffed Valkyrie, and in my opinion has made her one of the most consistent usable cards in the game. And although she isn't used often for a level
yeah,
as much,
15
she
for
is
a
loved
reason.
for being one of the most
Level
accessible
2 Val,
early on good
no,
cards that you can
these
get
level
at the
4
beginning of the
Valkyries
game.
coming
At a
along and
cost
just
of 4
destroy it, you know?
elixir, this provides pretty good
Level 2
splash
Valkyries
damage,
actually
and in early
impossible
arenas, people
because,
are always spamming Skarmies,
rarer
and this
cards
is a
start at
great
level
counter to
3.
that card. Plus, with a pretty high amount of HP, she can withstand a lot of damage and be useful for baiting cards into the center, similar to how you would do with a knight.
Wait,
And
how's he
although she
using
is as
Magikarp
slow
from
as
bloody Bone
Molasses, this is
Pit,
definitely still one of the most loved cards in the game, and she even got her own evolution added in January of 2024, which is one of the best evolutions in the game. Obviously, Evo
Yeah,
cards
that's
are all
because they're
going to be
overpowered
strong, but
because it uses, like,
considering that this isn't one of the
multiple
strongest
tornadoes.
cards in the game, I think it
I
gets
think I'm
a
gonna get
really big
Valkyrie
bonus
now.
in usage percentage just based on how good the Evo is. And
I
even
won't
if you
get the
guys don't agree
packs.
with my take on the Evo Valkyrie,
Like and
you're
subscribe so I
definitely
can
going to agree
afford the
with my
pack.
take on the
Lol.
Neo, and it's the Elixir Golem.
I don't speak Golem.
Added in November of 2019, it's just annoying. Watch the clip.
Good luck, man. Oh, he tapped me up. Bro, I thought this guy was my friend and he busted out Elixir Golden Healer first play. No!
Although this card is only 3 elixir, it has a ton of HP and
Yeah,
does
so
more
balanced.
damage than many of the cards in the entire game. It waddles right up to your tower
Wow,
looking like
rat.
Dave Blunts and ruins your day in the process. And similarly to the 8 elixir Golem, if you manage to take this guy down, he just splits into 2 smaller annoying guys. And if that situation isn't annoying enough, both of those guys will break and then split into 4 smaller guys. So when this card is combined with something like a battle healer, it's pretty much a nightmare to deal with. I generally use my Evo Skarmia to take this out, but if somebody has a log or a zap, this is going to be a rough one to deal with. And when this card is paired up with Battle Healer and also Electro Dragon or even Goblin Machine, it makes things even worse, and you pretty much have to defend this perfectly because any mistake will end in disaster. For those of you going through some of the higher levels in the trophy arena, you know that this deck is no skill needed and spammed like crazy. And speaking of spammed like crazy, our next most loved card in the game is used in 20% of decks, making it the 5th most used card in all of Clash right now. And it is the Skeletons. Yet again, this card was from the game's launch in 2016. It seems like there's a pattern of the most loved cards being the original game cards that were the most balanced ones that they thought out the most, but we'll talk about that more later. Being that it's the cheapest card in the game at only 1 elixir and spawns 3 skeletons, it
What
definitely
about
has a
fire
ton of
spirits?
use cases.
Overwhelm him with all the skeletons. Wait. Okay, I'm gonna Skelly King. Look at these Evo Skellies.
Like I said, there's so many different ways to use the card because of how simple and cheap it is. You can distract tanks and keep your opponents away from your towers and misdirect some of the bigger tanky cards. But you could also use it for straight up DPS in situations where cards are locked onto your tower and you need to get in some quick small damage. Although this is one of the most loved cards, it is also a very high skill card even though it's very simple to use. The card's usefulness genuinely comes down to your own game sense and coming up with creative strategies on how to use them effectively. Because like I said, on top of this being only a list, please subscribe for more Clash Royale content, and I
Wow, I
will
guess
see
that's
you
the end of
guys
the
in the
video.
next video.